So that's something naming-wise I think we've lost a lot of over the last few years is players arbitrarily capitalizing and lowercasing their names. FireBird, when are we going to see the random upper and lower cases in your username?
Well, I think it kind of comes back. So, a little fun fact for everyone here. For a while, I have had actually 2 different usernames for my casting. Yes, for a while now. I've been trying to kind of smush them together. They've been kind of similar anyway, but in StarCraft 2, when I started casting, I, of course, was known as FireBird. That's what I went by. That was my in-game name. When I started casting Rocket League, however, which is another game that I cast, I did end up changing that up because I had a different username in Rocket League, so I kind of just smushed those names together, and from that was born the persona that I think I'm most commonly known by, which is Titan on Fire, and that's kind of what I've been branding everything as of recent. Yes.
Okay.
So I've been trying to like kind of, now that I'm doing more StarCraft 2, I've realized that with my Twitter and everything being branded towards the Rocket League, I kind of need to change the name over because it's a little bit confusing. But yeah, I don't know. I like the little capitalization things. It's fun. Like the innovations, the BYUNs, the Ryungs with the little capital G's at the end, parting. I do miss those days. And of course, a lot of it was just because Korean pros would, the ones that didn't just name themselves off of a random English word that they liked, would just be like, hey, this looks cool.
Oh, we got a Proxy Stargate coming up here. I've got one more thing to that. I just wanted to make sure that I tossed out that we've got the Proxy. And we've got quick concussive shells by BYUN. Both of these players are playing insanely dirty. There was always a comic that I always really enjoyed. It was 10 years ago or something. The comic was a Korean player winning at an offline event for StarCraft, and somebody walking up to them saying, "You've ascended, congratulations, pick your username." And they hand him a piece of paper that is the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody, and some of the words have already been crossed off. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy caught in a landslide? And it's just here are the words you can pick from, and some of them have been circled, some have crossed off. So I always liked that a lot. But this is getting kind of dicey here. We've got a Void Ray proxy here, and these shield batteries are already going down into the backside of the natural here. BYUN's in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, this is really cool. Prince went for the Proxy Stargate, now has the shield batteries coming up. Oh, the Marauders might be able to get the pylon, though. Oh, the heal! Absolutely well done there from Prince. And you know what, BYUN? Your Marauder opening, it might be good against everything else, but it's not good against Void Rays.
This would be an upset. If we see GG pop out here, this would absolutely be an upset. 2 Marines are not going to be necessarily enough to deal with this, but it is getting dangerously low. However, the shield batteries are already down. That's going to quickly replenish. Prince just takes the natural. This is the biggest flex. Prince knows that this is not supposed to be happening. He's got to be feeling really good right now.
And it's not actually even, the crazy thing is this actually next to the natural isn't even a bad play. Because guess what it allows you to do? Shield battery overcharge is now available on those shield batteries. As BYUN, he's trying to build this altar. Does have 4 rays now available, so it's a bit more, and that Void Ray is getting low, but just cannot beat the DPS coming out from the Void Ray. But there goes the missile turret. 1 Void Ray goes down. It's a little bit of an overstep that you really can't allow. Now Cyclone's going to be produced. And Prince, he's just going all in. He's got the Twilight Council coming down, the Nexus. He's saying, listen, I'm going to get all of the tech, and I'm going to beat you with it. But BYUN has a very good defensive position. Missile turret sitting it focused down towards the shield batteries are in position. Bunker in range so they can hit that down. Oh, that SC repair just not quite enough. And that's absolutely massive. The Magfield Accelerator is going to now be under fire, and with the Cyclone popping out, it can start to focus down a few of these Void Rays. Prince should be back up, and all that will get healed on up. As soon as Magfield is done, of course, Cyclones become a lot more threatening, but until then, well, Prince has full reign of the base of BYUN.
Yeah, this is very, very scary damage here. Prince is just going to continue leveraging this going forward. And Prince is also pumping out rogues. So not only getting this base to provide for shield battery overcharge, but is going to use it economically as well. And the further and further back that BYUN gets pushed here, this starts to become a scary situation. Although he does bait those Void Rays a bit too far back. 1 Void Ray is going to get picked off, but the Barracks is going to be under fire here. The Cyclones will finally start getting their value done, but again, I'm not seeing the path out of here for BYUN. BYUN's got impeccable micro, but he's going to be stuck on one base to the 2 base of Prince, surprisingly enough. This game has gone full tilt. Are we watching the NA server? Did we accidentally switch? I'm missing something here.
I don't know. I think Haas has suddenly jumped into the chair of Prince and said, "Let me take over. I got this. Don't worry." As now you have Mag Build Accelerator available, and while those can't really step forward with the Void Rays. You see immediately the shield battery overcharges pop to save it. But 3 Cyclones out, that is enough to pretty much burst down any unit that is available here for Prince, as well as these bunkers going up. So BYUN getting the tank is going to eventually try and push this back, but continue to build missile turrets and bunkers. Going to lock on a good force field, and Prince, well, he is mining here off the space, so he will have that income advantage, as you see, already taking that lead. But we'll have to see if he can push down the tank now. This is going to stop the sentries from pushing forward. It's going to mean that, well, now these shield batteries are going to be under fire. Missile turrets going up. It's going to be a lot harder for Prince to push this position, especially with the Marines now out. But he's going to try and do so. Void Rays immediately getting focused down. You see that Mag Field Accelerator does so much damage so quickly. You just can't really do anything with the Void Rays now, and I think Prince's position might be broken.
Yeah, this is actually starting to look really, really scary. Getting that tank out on the high ground is providing so much added cover to the units of BYUN, and trying to nerf that down is just not going to be enough. And suddenly these tanks, 2 tanks, is going to be too much to deal with. Prince in a rough position. I'm a man of humility here. I think I might have called this wrong, FireBird. BYUN seems to have this well under control.
It was, I mean, so well handled. Also, BYUN has the +1 on Marine, so they do a lot more damage as well. Still snipe there with the Cyclone. Retreat to safety. The position is broken. Prince has to expand back to his home base natural, but it's so many minerals that are going to be lost, and he's just building units here to try and slow down BYUN. You know, this is to make sure that BYUN can't push across the map. Also, Prince got Blink from that Proxy Twilight Council that is like literally in BYUN's natural while this was all happening. So, you know, just interesting stuff going on. BYUN is going to be building, though, his finally natural base that has been on the way for a little bit, halfway done now. And, well, BYUN breaks out. Prince, what does he have left? Well, for now, he's going to have some Blink Stalkers, and that's about it.
Well, those Blink Stalkers might be just enough to slow BYUN down, because the Blink Micro can be very strong. He can try and grab a couple of those units for free and then blink back to safety. And it is going to be buying a lot of time, as you mentioned. The second Nexus was not delayed. The moment Prince was like, yeah, I'm going to lose this position, he immediately throws down that Nexus back at home. It looks like he's going to go try and take his 3rd Nexus as well, so not going to delay on getting that into position either. So it's just a game of time at this point. If Prince can manage to hold BYUN back and stop him from just pushing across the map, he might be in an economic position where he might end up being okay.
Yeah, this is possibly the ballsiest play I've ever seen from Prince, as he's saying, listen, I know I just Proxy Void Ray rushed you, placed a Nexus in your natural, also my Twilight Council and all my tech was there, but I'm now going to take my 3rd and play chicken with you and say, if you push out, I'm probably going to lose, but if not, I'm going to be in a great spot. Prince is, I mean, hey, right now he's winning the mind games.
Yeah, it's working. As crazy or as ballsy as it is, it's working. So BYUN stays back at home. He has a very significant army advantage, but those economies are rather identical. I wouldn't be surprised to see BYUN start pushing out here as Stimpack is completing, which will be done in about 10 seconds. So behind this, though, Prince does have to rebuild some of that valuable tech, that Twilight Council going down once again, so we'll be able to see that transition into some of those later tech units, the Archons and the High Templar. But overall, production very, very low here for Prince, as BYUN now is going to start working on things. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty strong timing. Prince, I think, is going to be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure what he's going to have. I mean, he's going to try and get Colossus out before it can come across the map, but I don't know if he'll have that much time. It's so many units here from BYUN. It's 4 tanks, a whole bunch of bios, and send out a double drop as well. It's actually going to clean up the Stargate, so he's going to try and sneak this one on through all of the bases and just get on top of Prince's main base. This is, yeah. I mean, it's just such a bad position from Prince after getting cleaned up. This is why it's so hard to transition out of these cheeses. It's because if it does get cleaned up, you've spent so many minerals that you don't really have anything left. And well, Prince, he'll see the double drop. I'm not sure what he's gonna have to defend it though.
It's gonna be a rough situation. Ooh, picking off the observer as well is gonna be really important. But yeah, Prince will be able to grab the scout here with the Phoenix. The Phoenix should immediately get taken care of. It does get very low, but not killed. And I guess it is more time bought here. So BYUN now has to bail out on that drop that, once again, if BYUN was working with perfect information, he would know that there's not that much back at home to really defend if he were to get in and pick off 8 or so probes and just leave. But Prince doing what he needs to stay in this game. That army count, though, does get scary. 86 to 41, and it just continues to grow.
Yeah, this is going to be a very dangerous push. Prince does scout it out, so he has the information that it is across the map, but he only has 1 Colossus out at the moment. 1 Sentry, a bunch of Blink Stalkers, but no charge for his charge lots, and there's the immediate stim, and Shield Battery overcharge is good. It's not that good. BYUN finally pulls the trigger. GG is called. BYUN going to get the first win of the series. But in the top right, it's your red Protoss. His name is Prince.
And spawning in the bottom left. For the Shopify Rebellion, our blue Terran player. This is BYUN.
Yes, I believe in the young master race. But I mean, in all seriousness, he has actually just been playing really, really well recently, and it's been great to see because it's a player that, I mean, for a while I don't think anyone really even remembered. Like people who were probably new to watching StarCraft 2 were like, "Who's young?" And that's kind of crazy to think about.
I will be very straight up and honest with you. I can't say that I'm super familiar with Ryung myself.
Yeah, I don't think he ever really made it like as a massive name. I don't think he ever got any super big results, but he was a decent Terran player, I think a while ago. I think he had his military service, I think then came back. If I'm not wrong, I'm trying to remember because he's also a player that I didn't really keep track of, but then when I saw him on Team GP and I saw him like, beating Dark, getting 1-on-1 versus Dark in the World Team League, I was like, oh, I think I remember him. And I think I am right. He played a while ago, didn't have any good results, but was a decent Terran player. Has been back recently. Of course that also does kind of just bring up that a lot of old players are coming back. A lot of people who had their military service coming back. You got Gumiho coming back. You got Classic coming back. Hero, you got 4GG. Like, it's really cool that all these names that like I grew up with watching are now returning, going to be playing again.
And that's the benefit of a scene that has been around as long as StarCraft has. And there's a bit of a formula that has been shown from Brood War, because Brood War, I mean, obviously has been around for twice as long as StarCraft 2, and they have shown that, yeah, we can keep the competitive scene thriving. If you were here once before, we'll welcome you back, and we have a space where you can actually get yourself back into form. And if you want to compete once again, sure, we've got prize money we'll pay you, and we've got teams that'll support you. So I love seeing that as well. And it's funny you mentioned that. It's like, oh yeah, have you seen this new player in Ryung? And like, wow, they're really coming into form. And you're sitting there going, what are you talking about? They've been around since the beginning. But it's that interesting, fun disparity between the older members of the scene and the newer ones as well.
It'd be like if Snoot came back. A lot of people would be like, oh, this Snoot guy is kind of good. You're like, yes, he is.
Yes, and he was 5 years ago and 7 years ago.
Yeah, when he was in his prime, he was very good. Oh, God, I remember when Snoot was like, people were like, is this the next European guy who's going to compete with the Koreans? He was a very, very solid player back then. But, of course, I did kind of retire since then, but still, And I think Heart of the Swarm was kind of his thing with the Broodlord Infestor.
Yeah,
Swarm hosts meta.
Broodlord Infestor nerf destroyed a lot of very, very good potential Zerg players. So it's a bit unfortunate, but that's my Zerg bias talking as well.
I mean, it also got rid of some Zergs who only did that cough cough sniper cough cough.
Well. Well, I suppose you're not incorrect on that. But yeah, interesting sorts of developments kind of coming in here. BYUN's taking this a bit more macro-oriented, threw down that third base. So he's already got a third command center that's done. At least I'm pretty sure. No. What was I seeing? I must have hallucinated that. That was definitely a factory. So never mind. Take the last 10 seconds out of your brain. That didn't exist. But it is a blink stalker timing for Prince. So Prince once again trying to tap into a more, not really a cheeky timing, but definitely more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just a final point on the Ryung thing. For those of you who are older, if you don't remember, Ryung was the player who made it to the top 4 of GSL, faced Sniper, and then after losing Game 5 to Broodlord and Fester, instead of typing GG, just typed Imba, because it was in fact Imba, and that's the only thing that Sniper did. Anyway, but yeah, Prince is going to be aggressive here. This is going to be, I think, is it only 3 gates, not 4?
I believe so. I believe you're correct, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not going to be like incredibly committed here from Prince. It's going to be aggressive for sure, but there should be a third base that comes up at a decent time behind it. It's just going to try and maybe snipe off a few add-ons. Of course, BYUN got a very early stim, so he won't be able to snipe that. But try and poke out across the map, try and see if you can get some unit kills and slow down the Terran if they're going for a push. But behind it, there should be that third base coming up, I believe.
I think Prince would not be upset with finishing things off here, but that Cyclone's going to be able to get a very, very important scout before the high ground vision is available. Now, with the Warp Prism, there will be some added aggression, but oh my gosh, it just immediately almost gets tapped down by those Marines. Workers have to get pulled. There are going to be aggressive warp-ins happening here as the Blink Micro is going to be on point, but that high ground vision is going to be quickly eradicated. But 12 worker kills for Prince. That's a pretty decent exchange.
Yeah, super solid. And you even saw something really cool where he had 3 Adepts in the Warp Prism, and he just dropped those down, tanked the Marines for a little while, and even managed to one-shot a few of them. Meant that the Stalkers had a little bit more survivability. They didn't have to immediately blink back. And now 4 Stalkers in a Warp Prism going to be heading on into the main, trying to see if they can pick off any workers. Does get 2, and that's solid, especially since this Warp Prism can get out and be recalled. So Prince gets some damage done, moving into Colossus, getting the third base, and BYUN has been kept back for now, but you have combat shields and +1 finishing up for BYUN, and that should be indicative of the pretty strong push coming out from him.
Yeah, this is going to maybe be a little bit closer game here by these 2 players. Oh my gosh, that Warp Prism is just so dangerously low. It can't even risk trying to dive on in there, especially with mines in the equation, but it's going to try to anyways. Knows where that mine is sitting and will try to create as much chaos as humanly possible, but it's a lot of gateways on the backside of this FireBird. 5 coming in, and there's going to be Colossus. I think Prince is just going to keep his gas on the pedal here, or his foot on the gas pedal. Wow, there we go.
His gas on the pedal. I think Prince saw what Trap did and said, you know what, that looks pretty decent. I'm going to do that too, as he has Charge coming on the way, the 5 additional gates with the Colossus being produced. Beyond there, I have no idea how, but spots the Observer in observing mode. So just a nice little catch means that Prince is going to have no idea when BYUN does end up pushing out. But Prince has the third base, is going to be macroing up from this point on, and has a 9 worker advantage. It's probably not as much as you would like at this point, but you do see Prince is actually not taking the gas on his third base. Is it fully saturated? No, he's going to keep producing probes. So just, a little bit sloppy there, but does eventually get it all back under control. And this push from BYUN is going to be dangerous. We'll have to see if Prince is able to catch it out across the map. That's usually how you slow these down and stop them.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but the question is going to be whether or not he can. I'm not sure that there's going to be enough here to really deal with that, but a good blink forward on top of the tanks before they're allowed to siege is a good place to start. But some really nice micro here by BYUN is going to try and maximize the amount of damage that he can get done. It's a pretty even exchange, actually. Kind of a weird turn of events. He loses all of the tanks, but is able to get out with a decent amount of the bio, and Prince isn't going to force the issue. So I think this is a better exchange for Prince, though. He keeps the third base. No real damage gets done onto that, and it's a lot off of the top of BYUN's economy and army here. He falls behind a little bit on the supply count, but overall, a pretty decent exchange here for Prince.
Yeah, I think Prince is decently happy with that. You don't like losing the 2 Colossus, of course, but for it, you trade out for 4 tanks. That's absolutely worthwhile. That evens out. I think the money-wise, I think that's just a little bit better for the Protoss. 2 Colossus for 4 tanks. Cleans up a lot of the bio, and this means that Prince is able to get into his 1-1 upgrades without much trouble. He's going to be able to saturate the third base and get into even his 4th. BYUN, what's going to be the follow-up? Well, we're going to have more tanks on the way. Going to be working on a very, very early Ghost Academy as well. So, I mean, I would like to say that BYUN's can just macro out of this, but I don't even know, like, his 3rd CC isn't even planted down yet.
Yeah, this is kind of an awkward situation. BYUN thrives from playing down economically by being able to play up on his army count, and that's not the case right now. I mean, they're dead even in army counts, and Prince's army is actually pretty decent in terms of engaging with BYUN's army composition, so not really having that added advantage. The Ghost will be helpful, though. Getting the advanced shockwaves will make those EMPs that much stronger. But I think it's still going to come down to a lot of very good engaging from BYUN to make this disparity work in his favor.
Yeah, BYUN will finally be able to get that third base up, and he's actually going to be able to catch up in the worker count because he's been entirely on top of that. But Prince, at the same time, has just had a lot more money available. So you see the 1-1 finishes up, getting the +2 as well for his ground units, and getting into High Templar. For those Archons, no Storm actually on the way for him, so just is the sign that the Archons maybe slightly better value. I would have to say I still think, High Templars with Storm probably a little bit better, especially if you have them in the Warp Prism. But this is a very ground-poundy army from Prince. It has a lot of HP, it has a lot of shields. It's hard to get through all of it, so unless BYUN's EMPs are on point, this is an army that can just kind of roll over a Terran if they're out of position.
Yeah, to see what BYUN's got going for him here. He's got a pretty decent siege location, and he's just going to get a lot of tank shots onto this army before it even has a chance to engage. That is not the way you want to start this engagement off as Prince. He's going to take that Warp Prism and try and pull it up into the main base to create some extra chaos, and that could potentially be a good situation, but now has to deal back at home. Gets a great snipe off onto that Warp Prism, so this now is going to be a little bit better position for Prince to try and play into. But again, that tank position for BYUN is very, very strong. It's in a good spot. It's going to be difficult for Prince to really make something happen here with this engagement.
And you just see Prince, I mean, he's being smart here. He's using the Colossus to get rid of the supply depots, because that's what's going to stop his Zealots from being able to get on top of the army. But now BYUN has pulled back. He's defended the main base, has tanks back in position, that Warp Prism. Still going to have Warpins available, though, on the back side. BYUN, well, this is it. Pulls the trigger, gets a nice initial EMP onto a lot of these Zealots, but there's still a ton of shields onto the Archons. They managed to dodge a lot of those EMPs as well, but there still should be more available. There we go. The blanket comes down. Shields gone from everything, but still more Archons being warped in, and BYUN can't push down the Colossus, which are the main damage dealer here for Prince.
I still don't know exactly how I feel about this just yet. The Warp Prism is not in the main base. It will be here in just a moment as it does go for another wrap-in. Prince, though, economically is in a fantastic position. The Warp Prism will get sniped down, so that's going to be reduced damage here. But economically, he's got his 5th base going on site. He's held BYUN to 3 base economy. He's got a good look at what the 4th base is going to be bringing in, so it's not going to surprise him if he decides to go into that timing. But all in all, Prince has done this before. He did this in game number 1 where he tried to make the most of positioning, but BYUN still just came across and did an insane amount of damage with not as many units. But BYUN now has that army advantage. He's in a good spot where he can try and push, but I'm just not sure. It's tough to read, right? I mean, 5 bases against 3, and Prince is able to hold his opponent back. Surely this should go in the direction of our red Protoss player, but we've seen BYUN do more with less.
And of course, a lot of those Colossus do end up getting sniped, which is super, super big here for BYUN. Getting rid of a lot of that splash. You still don't have any storms for Prince. Has not researched the upgrade, has just been focusing on this Archon count. But Prince, he can't really push these tanks. The EMPs and the tanks together just do way too much damage. The Colossus get focused down by the Vikings. So I really do think Prince here just has to wait to pounce on this army. Should just build up and be ready for this push, because it is a very strong push from BYUN.
He's just being very, very patient here, wanting to slow walk the tanks, getting into a good position, and it's going to be the good positioning here. But this is not what he was looking for here. BYUN caught in a choke, and those valuable Archons are going to get a lot of splash damage down, but immediately sniping the Colossus. Now suddenly this looks like a great position for BYUN. Exactly what I mentioned just a moment ago. We've seen BYUN do more with way less, and now BYUN's going to be able to tap down this 5th base location, and the tanks will continue rolling on forward to find even better choke points against this red Protoss player.
The immediate EMPs there did so much damage. Now, Prince can give up this position because that was his 5th base, and he's still on 4. But he needs to defend. He can't allow this Terran army to get into the natural. And while there's Liberators now up there, tanks available, Prince will have to see he can dive on top of these tanks, and that's going to be absolutely massive if he can get the kills on them. But BYU stimming back down the ramp. EMPs are not available. There's a low energy on all of the ghosts. And that's the cleanup, I think, for Prince. He manages to get the wraparound. 2 tanks are left and some bio to try and help, but it is all going to get cleaned up. The blink to kill off some more bio in that medevac, and Prince manages to get the 360, manages to eliminate the Liberators, and BYUN tried to push into the natural but fails.
That was a fun engagement there. That was Prince playing very, very cautiously and trying to bait his opponent forward, and it absolutely worked. And now that 4-base economy is going to kick in. He's got enough to be able to warp in what he needs to. He's got the bank behind it. Look at that economic advantage here. Prince making the most of that and trading rather efficiently here, and actually not too far off on the amount of resources lost compared to his opponents. So he should be able to make the most of the situation. He has 40 extra workers. Yes, the army supplies are evened out, but Prince is one good engagement away from evening up this set against a very, very strong Terran player.
Yeah, this is a problem that BYUN has a lot, where he just doesn't build extra workers, even when he probably should, to try and get back into a macro game. Of course, his income is still going to be very equal with the Protoss, because he does have mules, and that's a nice Liberator there into the 4th base, able to kill 5 workers and should be able to get out. But you're starting to see that supply difference come through. You know, the 30 extra workers for Prince, the army supply now also going to start to favor him, and BYUN sieges up a 6th base that actually isn't even there a little bit. I guess maybe thinking the Protoss was a bit farther ahead of him than he really was. You know, of course, Prince still incredibly far ahead, but just not 6th base far ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how BYUN can confidently play with 43 workers on his 4 bases and just jump right up to that army count that he needs to really engage this army. But it's such a glass cannon approach. BYUN's always one bad engagement away from losing, but I don't know. We just don't see BYUN take many bad engagements, FireBird. He just always seems to have the right calculation. Even when he loses his whole army, he's able to stay in it.
Yeah, he's got the Terran spirit, the fighter in him that doesn't want to give up. But, you know, there are differences. I mean, if we look at the series we just saw between Trap and Bunny, you know, there's no Liberators being added on. It's just Ghosts and Bio. That is what BYUN is fighting with. Those are some great EMPs, though. So many Archons lose their shields. But is it just too much for Prince? It is Colossus, it is Archons, and it is too much for BYUN. GG. Prince gonna tie it up.